Finishing moves. The move that should realistically end the match whenever it is hit.
Come on, Tony! Crossroads! Cover! Finished the story!
That's just not the case anymore in today's wrestling, is it right? The art of the finisher is lost in today's wrestling, right? A move that should end the match barely does that. What has happened to the finishing move, right? What has happened to a move being hit by a certain individual? And we see it and we're like, yep, definitely, the match is done. There's nothing that can be done after this. This was a fun match. This was good, right? Finishers are being kicked out of way too many times now, right? It's so bad that there are only a certain amount of moves that are actually showcased as finishing moves. A certain handful of finishing moves that are actually just that, finishers. They finish. A common one I can think of, right, is Seth Rollins' stomp. You know, when CM Punk isn't kicking out of 23 in one match, right? Recently, Bronson Reed Tsunami. I've yet to see somebody kick out of that. And back then, Baron Corbin's End of Days, which has only been kicked out of once in his entire WWE career, only one time. But where exactly did it go wrong for finishing moves in wrestling? Now, it's common practice for big matches to have finisher kickouts, okay? You know what? Fine, cool. It's a big match. It's a big moment. It calls for like one or two kickouts. Sure, cool. I'm okay with that. But it becomes a big issue when it's way too common. Any match with even the slightest hint of repercussions for the future must, at bare minimum, have at least bare minimum 475 finisher kickouts, and it is absolutely annoying. Now then, it's important to know I'm going to talk only about WWE, mainly because if I get into Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, I would be here all day, okay? Will Ospreay is our editor's favorite wrestler, and I'll be done dirty if I say anything bad about him. So we're gonna stick to WWE. Now, back in WrestleDrop's day, finishers were about as rare as Roman Reigns actually showing up to wrestle, right? Mainly due to the fact that back then, you only had maybe Hulk Hogan kicking out of a finisher. It was just Hulk. And then Ultimate Warrior decided to kick out of how much was it? 7, 8, 9 Macho Man elbows? Right? WrestleMania 7, 8, 9, yeah? Oh, no, WrestleMania 7, yeah, the Macho King. But still, it was a big deal because it was reserved for two people, I'd say. Just Hogan and Warrior. Okay, cool. It was unique. It was something special. When it happened, you just knew that, okay, we're not done here. This is actually getting interesting. Then came the Attitude Era. Arguably, the greatest period in wrestling, right? The era of wrestling that really shaped what wrestling would become now. Mick Foley, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Diamond Dallas Page, Sting, Goldberg, big names of the Attitude Era. There's just one problem with the Attitude Era. It was the era that truly began the whole fiasco of finisher kickouts. That's my one gripe with the Attitude Era. That is when finisher kickouts became a bit too common. Just look at the matches between Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. They kicked out of multiple stunners, out of multiple rock bottoms, just between themselves. Don't even get me started on The Rock versus Triple H. Don't even get me started on The Undertaker. Don't get me started on Mick Foley. Don't get me started on the other. I'm just talking about The Rock and Stone Cold. They were kicking out of each other's finishers, left, right, and center. I don't even think their match at Mania 17 even ended with a finisher. It ended with steel chair shots, not a finisher. It was really the Attitude Era where this viewpoint of what is it going to take really started. I'm going to talk about a more recent example of for finisher kickouts being ridiculous, and that was this year. SummerSlam 2025. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Now, I understand that Cena's aging, he's getting older, he's getting slightly weaker. But do you know how many attitude adjustments Cody Rhodes kicked out of? Right? It wasn't one, it wasn't two, it wasn't even five. Cody Rhodes, the current undisputed WWE champion, beat John Cena after he kicked out of 8 attitude adjustments. Cody Rhodes kicked out of 8 finishing moves. Let me phrase that better. He kicked out of John Cena's finishing move 8 times, including one from the top rope. He kicked out of a Super AA after taking 7 previous attitude adjustments, 2 of which were on the stage. Another one that was through a table, and he still kicked out. John Cena himself in that match kicked out of, I lost count of how many crossroads, I think 6, I think 7, including the crossroads trifecta. The move Cody Rhodes hits when he is guaranteed victory. If Cody Rhodes hits 3 crossroads in a row, you just know the match is over. There's no chance in hell anyone is kicking out. But not to Jonathan Felix Anthony Cena Jr., who kicked out of a crossroads trifecta. Now, I understand that the match was being built up as Super Cena versus Super Cody. That's fine. But it gets to an absurd amount when Cody Rhodes is kicking out of 8 attitude adjustments. John Cena is kicking out of about 7 crossroads. I'm not buying that. No, what happened to a finisher being the end of the match? What happened to a finisher actually being a finishing move? All right? Because now it just feels like it's a basic everyday move that anyone can do. You just have to get down on your knees. You gotta cross your fingers. You gotta pray that ends the match. Whew. But I want to flip the script a little bit. I'm gonna calm down now, right? All right. I've been getting a little bit angry. I've been getting a little bit angsty. But I'm gonna flip the script now, right? I'm gonna talk about when wrestlers use other wrestlers' finishers and why that is okay. Now, immediately, you might think I'm contradicting myself, right? You might be thinking, how can you criticize the fact that there are multiple finisher kickouts, but you're not going to talk about when wrestlers use others' finishers? Glad you might have thought that. Glad you might have asked, because that's a completely different story. Are you forgetting what era of wrestling we're in? Are you forgetting what period of modern wrestling we are in? I will stand on that hill. That's valid. I'm going to give you examples. The Super Kick, the Usos, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu, they all use a Super Kick. But anytime that they hit a Super Kick, you never quite believe that the match is over because their name isn't Shawn Michaels. When Shawn Michaels nails a Super Kick, it's not a Super Kick, it's a sweet chin music. When he hits it, it's the end of the match. When anybody else hits a sweet chin music, it's not a sweet chin music. It's a Super Kick. How often has a Super Kick finished a match nowadays? Another example, the DDT. One of the most overused moves in today's wrestling that has now recently become a finisher, courtesy to the current NXT champion Ricky Saints. But remember, the DDT used to be a finisher because of Jake the Snake Roberts. But over time, it's become so commonly used that it's not a finisher anymore, is it? You would see someone hit a DDT and you're like, oh well, okay, cool, DDT, nice. No one bats an eyelid. I remember Rhino once said a quote. He said, if he hit you with the gore, this is me paraphrasing heavily, if he hit you with the gore and you kicked out, it wasn't a gore, it was a spear. No one has ever kicked out of the gore. To an extent, I agree with him, because if someone hits you with a super kick and you kick out, it's just a super kick. But if Shawn Michaels hits you with a super kick, it's not a super kick. It's a sweet chin music. You're meant to be down for the count. We are now in a period of wrestling where every move Okay, let me not say every move, where there are moves that used to be finishers that are just basic now. The superplex, the clothesline, the sleeper hold, the cutter, the DDT, the super kick, the big boot, the leg drop, the face buster. Heck, modern wrestling right now involves moves that even are finishers. And I just gave you an example with the DDT, right? I gave you an example with the super kick. If any regular schmo hits a clothesline, hey, if Roman Reigns nails a clothesline, you would never believe that that's gonna end the match, okay? Because it's just a clothesline. But if Gunther then hits a clothesline, people then believe the match is over. Why are people never vexed then? Why are people never throwing a fit when someone's move, who's currently wrestling, right? If their move is being used as someone's build-up move, as someone's basic move, right? No one says anything. 95% of wrestlers can like nail a clothesline, everyone's quiet. No one says, oh, but that's Gunther's finisher. That should end the match. It's a finisher. Because that's not what modern wrestling is anymore. Modern wrestling is now just, that's a cool move. It used to be a finisher. Let me use it as part of my comeback. Let me use it as our basic move. I guarantee you now. John Cena's 5 moves of doom, I guarantee you now, somewhere in the past, his back suplex used to be a finisher. I promise you. Randy Orton uses the superplex. His dad, Cowboy Bob Orton, used the superplex as a finisher. But no one says anything of that should be the end of the match. But it's fine. No, I've been ranting for about 13 minutes now. And I'm just gonna cut to the chase. Okay? I'm gonna summarize this whole rant by saying one thing. AJ Styles versus John Cena was 5 stars, and the argument that there were too many finishers is completely invalid. Thank you. Goodbye.